What's up, guys? Today, we're covering a lot of things. Skateboarding, college football, boxing, MMA, even podcasting. Get ready because my buddy Tim Meyer is joining the show today on the Game Time Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time! Woo!
what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Game Time Guru. As you know, I'm your host, Shane Larson, coming at you today with a guest of mine. Like I said in the introduction, his name is Tim Meyer. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, covering skateboarding, college football experience, boxing, MMA, maybe even some supplement talking about some podcasts. We got a lot to cover today. So I'm excited to talk about this. Before we get started, though, make sure you go over to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, follow me on all my social media outlets. You guys know where it's at. The Game Time Guru on Facebook, at Game Time Guru on Instagram, and The Game Time Guru on Twitter. So just go follow me on all my social media platforms. If you could, please leave me a review on iTunes. It really helps me out. But like I said, I got Tim Meyer in the house. Tim, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Dude, for sure. And we're in this legit sound studio today here in our local city of Meridian, Idaho. Yeah. And what do you think of it so far?
Taxpayer funded. I love it. It's really cool. I'm impressed. Seriously. This is a bank vault.
Right. It's a bank vault.
It's a bank vault. So ain't nobody going to come in here and attack us.
Exactly, dude. We're having a good time in here. Yeah. It's completely soundproof. And yeah, we were sitting here for quite a bit before we started the show, just talking about this for a second. It's really nice. Yeah. It's a really well put together studio, and it's free.
So anybody who has a library card and wants to come down and do a podcast, that's all you can do that.
Exactly, dude. I'm digging it. It's called Unbound here in Meridian, Idaho, so check it out.
Yeah.
So Tim, we're going to talk about a few things. Like I said, I want to start with the beginning of your sports days, probably, because you've pretty much participated in every sport, and we're talking about extreme sports too. And I've seen a couple of videos from you back in the day that's been posted on Facebook about your skateboarding days.
Yeah.
I want you to talk about that for a second, the extreme sports like skateboarding. What got you into skateboarding? When did you start? What got you to stop? What was that whole phase?
I wouldn't even consider it a phase. I think I'm a skateboarder at heart. I think that's just who I am. But I had some neighbors move in when I was 11, 12 years old. I was 6th grade, going to 7th grade, and these kids had Veriflex skateboards, $20 boards from Shopco. And they're out there doing ollies and kickflips, and I was like, oh man, I want to try that. So I started skating, and a lot of the friends that I started to make going forward, they all had an interest in skateboarding and whatnot, just because it was going into junior high and it was kind of the cool thing to do.
Right.
So that's kind of my foray into skateboarding, and then it just turned out that it was something that I was good at and I enjoyed, and it got me out of the house. And so my parents hated it. They sat me down when I was 12, 13, and they're like, we don't want you to be a skateboarder, and they gave me the whole we don't want you to be a bad kid thing, and I shrugged it off and I got on my skateboard and I left.
Dude, so were they more worried about the whole stigma behind it, the drugs and the bad kids behind it? That's kind of how my parents were totally get it, man. So just give me what was your favorite skate park here in Idaho?
So for me, I grew up at Rhodes, basically. I mean, that was
Rhodes.
that was my home. That was my home. Yeah. And that was before they got lights down.
Right.
I mean, my friend got kidnapped down there. Okay. I was with my friend when he got kidnapped down there. I've seen a bum stab another bum. I've seen some bum fights. It's been crazy, man. But yeah, so Rhodes Park, before it was nice. I mean, it was always nice, but before it is the way it is now, I'm trying to think if I went anywhere else. But I mean, I went to Tully a few times, but I was like a Sharky, down at the Rhodes Park.
Dude, you were the original down at Rhodes, man.
Yeah, hauling refrigerators so that we had other things. We'd go steal stuff out of dumpsters so we could take to the skate park and go hit it.
So your parents were right then.
They were totally right. Yeah, except that wasn't no drugs and no graffiti. We weren't vandalized. Well, I guess we were vandalizers. I mean, we'd rip off curb stop or skate stoppers and
who doesn't?
Sawzall handrails.
Downtown they've got
yeah. Okay, so I was pretty bad. Now that I think about it,
you just wanted to skate.
I was a kid. I wanted to have fun.
Exactly.
So.
I liked roads. When I was skating back in the day, Tully came out a little bit later, but they had the Eagle Skate Park.
Oh, yeah, the old Eagle Park.
Yeah, it's like way off, way like down, almost all the way down, like past Floating Feather here locally. And the only thing that was wrong with that one, though, was really lumpy.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of lump. The concrete wasn't poured correctly. So, yeah, like roads was good, but it was so old and just the area of town was disgusting. So that's funny you did that. When Tully came out, it was amazing, but the fact was it was so busy when it first got built.
I was there when it opened, and I got a skate because I was with the Zoomy, like the zoo crew back in the day.
Oh, okay.
The Zoomies. So yeah, when it opened, we were part of like the group that got to skate it at like right in the beginning for the demo. I got to demo skate it.
Oh, did you really?
Right when Tully, yeah, and that was probably like one of maybe 3 or 4 times I'd ever skated Tully, because I lived over closer to Rhodes. That was more of my hometown crowd, like all my skater buddies there. But then like Tully was more like a tranny park, and like I got messed up. So in a video called ID Skate, so you know where when you come in on the parking lot, and there's that quarter pipe that goes down. It's probably like a 6 foot. So I was 15 and I was filming for ID Skate. And the guy who's filming is Colin Clark. He travels the world. He films for Ride Channel. His job is literally to call professional skateboarders and go skateboarding. That's
rad.
Literally his job. He films. Yeah. So he travels the world and does that. So anyways, this was like his first skate video that he was filming for. So I was like, oh, I'm going to do like the coolest trick ever. So I do a switch front flip over like to flat. So from top to flat. And I caught it late. And I landed right inside where, like the invert kind of hit. Yeah. And I fell back and I hit my head, and it's all on video. And I like try to stand up, and like I'm trying to point to the camera, and I like fall over. And that was like the last time I skated Tully. I like knocked myself out.
Dude,
yeah,
that's
it was
brutal.
Cool. It's on film though. Yeah, I'll have to show you. I'll have to find it. It's on tape because it's so old.
Right, the old stuff.
Yeah.
Man, so, and you went to Capitol High School. Do you remember a kid by the name of Kyler? His name was
Kyler Wortman.
He was a fruit.
He was a rollerblader. I was just gonna tell you. So when I was at the old Eagle Skate Park, I was gonna interrupt you a minute ago. When I first met him, actually, I want to say I was a freshman in high school, and Kyler and I were good friends all through high school. Okay. So yeah, and he hung out with the Eric or something, professional skater.
Yes, yeah, he had a buddy of his that was really, really
like
good.
World renowned. Yeah, the guy's legit. He was like probably one of the better ones I want to say in the scene, like the pro scene back in the day. But yeah, the first time I ever met Kyler, he was trying to hit the long handrail on the back of the Old Eagle Road or the Old Eagle Skate Park, the one that goes all the way down the backside. No, it's like the handrail. Oh. And he was trying to show off, and it's a big handrail, dude. It's like
I know what you're talking about.
It's like my belly button, and I'm 6'3", so it's pretty tall. And I remember he hit this ramp going as fast as he could, and he was doing some kind of a grind, and he slipped out, and he racked himself.
Oh no!
And he slid like 20 feet on his nuts, dude. Oh. And I just remember laughing and feeling so bad at the same time. And he's just laid there, dude. I'd never seen a man in so much pain, and I don't even think to this day I've ever seen somebody in so much pain. I've never seen somebody rack themselves so bad,
dude. Yeah. The thing is he was such a good skater.
He was good.
He was amazing. So like I looked up to him because I was younger than him, obviously like 3 or 4 years younger. But when I was skating as a fruit booter, he was like the guy we always wanted to be like. He wasn't that great at handrails, but he was so good at everything else. I remember
he had good style.
Dude, he was
very smooth.
Yeah,
he flowed. Yeah.
Oh,
one of the only few like rollerbladers I ever kicked it with. But
dude, he was awesome.
Yeah.
I remember those were some good days. Believe it or not, like I was the third person in history that we know of. I was 15 years old that actually grinded the 21 stair handrail at Boise State. It's called the Beast.
Dang.
Dude, so yeah.
Dang, that's huge. Dude.
It was insane. I failed like 6-7 times on it. Like when we were going, I was busting up my knees, and then I finally made it to the very end. I only had 2 witnesses that were there, and I definitely don't think they're listening to this podcast right now because they're in some other areas right now. One of them happens to not even be out in civilization right now. So go figure, gets himself in trouble. But anyways, I had 2 witnesses there, man. But I loved skating. Did anything from like your skating days like transition? Like did you learn anything there that you could actually apply into your football days, like going into high school football? What was
everything, dude? Motor skills, my coordination. I want to even say like my explosiveness, because when you're on a skateboard, you've got to pop, you got to be quick with your feet, you know,
right.
And that's translated into not only that, but it's translated into all my other like sports ventures as well, like, you know, boxing and everything else that I've ever done. So yeah, I would say most definitely my you've got to have like a low center of gravity
right.
when you're a skateboarder, even as like I was tall, you know, 6'2", 6'3". Yeah. And I quit skating when I was like pretty much a grown ass man. I was like 21, right. 22 when I really hung it up.
Okay.
So I mean, for me, it was, yeah, definitely. I think the most important thing was my center of gravity and probably my motor skills for sure, as far as like my hand-eye coordination, my foot-eye coordination, whatever you want to call it.
So as long as you don't get yourself into trouble, like by doing the other stuff that your parents were worried about, I mean, there is a lot of benefits that come from like the skating world.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like it played into your whole sports background. Like you said, you went to Capitol High School here locally, which has been really well known for their football program. Yeah. Like from back the Jake Plummer days all the way through until now, they're still really good. They've had a few off years here and there. And I believe your brothers have, especially like your younger brother, played there and broke some records as well, and then ended up going to play college ball. A lot of your brothers are football guys. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about your college football experience. We were just talking earlier before we started the show about your college days and some stuff I didn't even know. So so you ended up playing college at Southern Virginia. So what is Southern Virginia for people who don't even know?
Yeah, Southern Virginia University, when I went there, Southern Virginia University was an NAIA school. Okay. So they were part of that division of athletics, and most recently they've converted to Division III, and they're in the, I guess depending on the sports, because they're split between conferences depending on the athletics. So their football program is part of the New Jersey Athletic Conference. Okay. So we're talking like Frostburg State is in their conference. Trying to think like schools that are top 25 that you'd recognize for D3. Wesley College, they're consistently in like the top 25 year in, year out for D3 football. But that's like, it's kind of like the SEC for like D3 football, I guess. Or it was at one time when I was playing. Okay. And then, so it was NAIA football. So that's what Southern Virginia is. It's a small school, like 800 students. It's tiny. So it's literally just a sports school. You just go there to play sports.
It's funny you mention that because I was a basketball player, and even when I got home, I served a mission for my church. When I returned home, I didn't have any intentions on playing basketball anymore. Obviously, I was kind of like done, but like I was looking through schools that typically allow like the older guys like that weren't the BYUs of the world, you know what I mean? But it happens to be like Southern Virginia was one of those. I remember I called them once and I was talking to one of the athletic director, and then it was like his assistant actually ended up calling me back or whatever. And she was saying that, they have like a JV program for their basketball team. They do. Yeah. She was saying some 31-year-old guy ended up trying out, and he was playing, he had college eligibility because he never went to school, and there was some like weird thing that went behind it, but she's like, we have a 31-year-old individual that's playing, and he's doing really well. It's like their second-tier team, and he's like, he comes and he does his best. So at 21 years old, you totally fit in just great here. But anyways, I definitely didn't go over there, but I just remember that came up, and then you said you played there. In regards to eligibility, we had this discussion a little earlier on eligibility. So talk about your time at SVU, and then like you tried to switch to a school, and there was I want you to tell the listeners about the eligibility issue from the NAIA down to Division I, how that all worked out for you. Yeah, so it's a little confusing. So hopefully I can communicate it in a way that people can understand. So basically, when you start full time in school academically, your athletic eligibility also starts. At least that's how it was when I was in school playing. And so unfortunately, going into my freshman year of college, I had broken my leg, and I wasn't able to train or stay in shape. So I figured I'd just take a year off and decide whether or not I really wanted to do anything as far as pursue athletics in college. So I took a year off and unknowingly went to school full time, and I ended up taking a scholarship at Southern Virginia University. Okay. And I waived my red shirt, and I played as a true freshman. So my eligibility started in 2004, according to NCAA. So you have those 5 years. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 were my years that I was eligible to play. And so I played in 2005 at Southern Virginia University the whole season. And then in 2006, I was injured.
I took a nasty chop block from the outside in, and essentially blew my knee out. So I took that season off. So I was granted a medical red shirt that year. So I'd used 1 year of eligibility.
Okay.
By 2006. So NCAA says that I've already used 3 years, but in reality, I've only played 1 because I was granted a medical red shirt. Yeah. God. So then I came back. I had surgery to fix my knee, which I had a meniscal tear and a medial meniscal tear, and then I also had like a partial tear in my MCL, and then my ACL also had a partial tear.
Do you have knees anymore?
Not really.
No? Okay.
Yeah, I've had 4 knee surgeries.
Dude.
I have cadaver tissue. Yeah, I was supposed to have a knee replacement at 25, and they said if I could either do de novo cartilage transplant. Essentially what I had was a dead knee. So like all of my cartilage was falling off from my patella into my joint. So it was rubbing, and I don't have a meniscus or a medial meniscus in that knee anymore. So it was just causing a lot of discomfort. So they went in and they put plugs. Yeah, cadaver tissue. 14-year-old kid.
Really?
Yeah, took stem cells from a 14-year-old kid. That's all the information they gave me. Yeah,
oh my!
$50,000 surgery. Crazy, dude. I should have just got a fake knee because my knee still hurts. Back to eligibility though. Sorry.
No, that's good. Injuries.
I digress. Yeah. So eligibility wise, 2006, I had surgery, and I was like, I'm gonna walk on at Boise State. So I did their camp. This is right after the Fiesta Bowl. And I did their camp. I walked on. They took me and a wide receiver out of like 90 people. And I weighed 223 pounds, and they picked me up as a defensive end.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At 223, I ran a 4.7 40, and then I repped out at 225 23 times.
Holy cow.
So they saw something in me, right? So I met with Coach Pete, blah, blah, blah. He set me up with all the other coaches. And then they started getting me situated as far as getting my paperwork in order to transfer over from SVU. So when they got my transcripts in, I forget his name now, Polynesian guy. He was the defensive coordinator at the time. He pulled me in and he sat me down and we had a chat about my eligibility. He said, this is the situation. He explained essentially what I had just explained to you guys and the listeners, that I had used 3 years of eligibility. They wanted to sit me out 2007 because I was a transfer. So that uses, okay. So I've technically only played a freshman season of football, but I've used up all 4 years of that by 2007. So I only would have been able to play 2008.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And my extension because of a medical redshirt at NAIA put me to 2009. So in 2007, I would sit out at Boise State. And then 2008, they probably wouldn't even play me, and it would be considered my senior year of eligibility, and I'd be like a backup, maybe 245-pound defensive end, after like my development over the next year.
Right.
So I sat down with the athletic director and whoever was in charge of eligibility at the time, and we went through all the 6-year eligibility stuff. And because I'd already filed with NAIA for my extension, there was a bunch of issues, and my transfer of credits didn't transfer over. So they only took like 28 credits of like, I want to say something like 60-something credits at the time. So I was like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to play 2007, 2008, and 2009 instead of sitting out 2007, 2008, and not even having an opportunity to play in 2009. So I decided that I'd rather play instead of practice.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I went back and I finished up my eligibility. I did okay. I was all conference. I think I was an honorable mention All-American.
Okay.
I've got like a screenshot of that somewhere. But yeah, they sent it to me afterwards. Yeah. It's a USCAA, so United Small College Athletic Association. So it's a little bit smaller. It's like an independent. Though. Yeah. So I made second team all conference my sophomore year, and then my sophomore year I was also honorable mention All-American.
Oh, okay. So it ended up turning out really well for you.
Yeah. I had fun and I enjoyed it.
See, that's what's and my next question here before we move to the next topic though is for a person, like if you could sit down and talk to somebody who's, wanting to play football but they're not sure they're ready for the D1 level, would you suggest that they go to a smaller school like that first? Okay.
100%, man. If you like football, you're at the next level regardless. Okay. And this is the thing that is difficult for a lot of people to understand is a lot of times when you go down to play smaller football, some of those guys went down to play smaller football so that they could actually play. And they are legitimate D1 athletes. Like we had guys that came on that would transfer out and play D1 all the time, like from our school. A lot of times they would go down and they play like 1 or 2 years because they don't feel comfortable playing D1. And then they move up. They transfer out and they use their eligibility up.
I gotcha.
So I've met a lot of guys like that, especially like it's like junior college guys, know, like they go down and they'll play a year or two knowing that they're like developmentally, like they're not at a D1 level, but like they have, the skill sets to play at that level. They just need to be developed.
Gotcha.
So, but anybody who's thinking about playing football, if you like football, go play football. Go somewhere and play football. Like it's an experience you'll never have. Like it's hard on your body, but it's worth it, man.
That's
like
so
all
cool.
The sweat, all the pain and suffering. The one thing I learned from football of anything that I've carried on with me outside of like working with others, and whatnot, is knowing the difference between pain and injury. 100%. Like I know my body. Football taught me so much about knowing my body, about knowing when I'm actually in pain and when I'm actually it's an injury and I need to get fixed. I don't know. It's hard to describe that to somebody.
That's really cool though.
But it's something you really don't know unless you have to like really know your body. Like if you have to perform, and you have to perform at a level where it makes you uncomfortable, because you should be uncomfortable. When you're training and when you're learning, you need to feel uncomfortable because that means you're growing.
Right.
Yeah. So
you learn that through like your experiences with that too. That's so cool.
Yeah.
See, that's awesome.
And it's just the way you interpret things. I don't know. I interpret things differently, obviously, than other people. Some people might shrug it off and be like, no, don't go play football, or no, don't get hurt. Well, do what you want to do because, if you love something, it doesn't matter where you do it or how you do it. Just do what you love.
I like that, man. Yeah. So if you guys are listening in, take that advice.
Yeah.
So after football, you finish up football.
Yeah.
I know you have a little bit of boxing experience.
Yeah.
Because I actually fought at the same gym as you, not the same time, but I trained at the same facility. Talk about your experience with boxing.
Yeah, love boxing. I've got huge respect for the sport. Boxing's always intrigued me because I grew up with brothers and we used to punch each other and beat each other up.
Your brothers aren't small.
Yeah, they're not small. No, I'm the runt for sure. And so for me, boxing, it's I guess it's eloquent. I like the sweet science. Me too. I like the pure. Yeah, I'm a purist. I think it's when somebody is extremely good, like exceptionally well at what they do, I only have admiration for that because it's like that's a level where not many people can put themselves at.
Right.
As far as boxing goes, I'm talking like the elitists, of course.
Right.
But those are who we look at, for the sport. When you think boxing, you think like who are the names in boxing and how do they fight, So for me, it's a purist thing. I like anything that's a pure. Somebody who plays like piano, if they're really, really good at it, I have an appreciation for that. I respect that. That's a lot of time. People sacrifice to be at that level regardless of what they're doing, So yeah, boxing. I love it. I've been boxing since 2009, off and on. I was riddled with some injuries for a few years. So I trained out of Vista Pal. Originally. So my first experience at Vista Pal, it's, as you know, that club is very boxing.
Yes.
Yeah, very traditional. My first day boxing, they throw me in there against a guy who had, in like a year or two previously, he took like bronze at the Worlds in Russia.
Okay.
And his name's Alex Gonzalez, I think.
Dude, is it Alex Lopez?
Lopez.
The kid, the coach's son.
Yeah, Alex Lopez.
We'll talk about Alex in just a second. Go ahead. Tell your story.
Yeah, he's legit. He's a cool guy, and I love all those coaches. But yeah, they threw me in against him, and it was an experience. I was like, all right, this is what real boxing is all about. Because I'd gone from like being a football player, and I had trained a little bit in boxing while I was playing football.
Okay.
Because a lot of the guys, like a lot of the Polynesian guys I played ball with, they were also boxers, and so I'd go in and spar with them and stuff. But that's a little bit different than being thrown into a club with like people who like compete,
right?
You know. And so, yeah, that was my first experience. They threw me in there and gave him a little bloody nose, and he gave me a bloody lip, and we had a little bit of fun. And after that, I just kind of fell in love with it.
Dude,
yeah.
I totally understand. With Alex specifically, I was actually just talking to a good buddy of mine probably a month ago. His name's Brock.
Yeah.
You know Brock. He also fought there.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, we talked about Alex. They put me in the ring my second day. Usually, if anybody knows boxing, if you're training, or any combat sport for that matter, they usually don't put you into the ring to spar for like 3 or 4 weeks at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, that particular club was very boxing. They threw you into the fire to weed out the weak, essentially. And they put me in with a guy named Beto, and Beto was a stud. He was, at the time I was 15 and he was 22, and he destroyed me. But then the next, that was like the first time but I loved it.
Yeah.
I got popped in the face, and I was like, I didn't
feels
go down.
Good.
Yeah, that's the thing that people don't understand.
It wakes you up. You're like, oh, damn.
But you don't fall down. Like I got hit, and like the Green Street Hooligans, there's like this quote the guy says, I think it's Elijah Wood, who says, once you realize you're not made of glass.
Yeah.
And he says something about that. That's exactly how it was. Like my first day in there, I got drilled really hard. With, like I was just kind of, throwing some jabs out there. He hits me with a cross just straight. No, sorry, it was a straight. Hits me with a straight right into my nose, pops my head back, and I'm like, I'm all right. Like, this is good. Okay, I can take a good hit from him. And then Alex, man, he was 13 at the time. And I was like, this is the hardest hitting 13-year-old I have ever seen. Like, people don't realize that. I was like, I would take this kid in a fight at school over anyone else. Like, this kid is good. Like, he was very good with uppercuts. He had a lot of, like, smooth rhythm to himself. Like, I just was like, man, like, it was just the flow of his fighting. I was like, dang, this kid's good. And then I heard like years later that he went like when I was on my mission, it was when he went over to like Russia or something, and he was killing it in all the national tournaments and stuff. So I was like, dang, that doesn't surprise me at all. But as he got older and grew into his body, he became a better and better fighter. So glad you got to see him when he was actually really good, because I knew he was going to be something special when I first started fighting there. I was like, not just because he's the coach's kid, like he was good.
Yeah, really good.
Man.
And I just saw them recently. I had a fight back in May.
Talk about that.
And it was my first fight back in I want to say my last fight was like in 2010 or 11. So and I took it on like a 4-day notice.
I noticed that. I saw that. I was like, what is going on?
So this was the story. So I wasn't even planning on. So I went back to Vista Pal. I trained for like another year or so. Well, anyways, I was off and on all the way through. So total in the last like 8 years, I probably trained for like 5.
Okay.
And so I decided that I didn't want to do Vista Pal anymore, just because like the style of training and my knees, and so I figured I would try SBG Idaho, because I knew that they were starting to work on more boxing, and they were planning on getting like a boxing team together. And with my nutritional supplement line, and we cater more towards that style of training with our products, I figured it was probably the best bet as far as networking goes, and training. So it was just a good option for me. And I get in there. I'm there for like literally a week, and they require that you take foundational classes, which I think is very important. You know, you need to know how to throw a punch before you take a punch. And so they're like, well, you got to sit in. We know you have experience. You got to sit in on the foundations class for a few weeks, and then we'll have to move you up. Well, they didn't even move me up to their cap class to spar. They like within a week, they were like, just come in and spar with us. We have guys coming up for fights, like Kyle Frost.
Oh,
and
really?
A couple other guys, like the pros and stuff, like people who are like legitimate. They're like, we need sparring partners, so come on in. They didn't allow sparring for people in foundations, but they made an exception, obviously, for like those who have had a little experience.
Right.
Came in, I sparred, and again, I realized I wasn't glass after the first couple punches with some of these guys. Because when you step into a ring with people who have like professional records, you know, or they've got like many years experience on you, you know, it's a little intimidating at first.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be a little bit shy and not want to take punches because you got to feel somebody out. But I mean, within like 10 minutes, I felt super comfortable in there, not only because I knew I could take a punch, but because I realized people weren't out there to take my head off.
Right.
You know, like, it's different. When I was at Vista, people were in there trying to make a name for themselves. They were trying to be an All-American every time they stepped in the ring. Where at SBG and Combat, they have more of like the mentality of, we're not trying to like knock each other out. We're trying to work on things that we need to work on. So in the middle of sparring, you know, a lot of times I can call out and say, hey man, I'm working on my left hook. So try to stay away from my left hook and we'll work through it. But then they'll still give me a full sparring session, and
Right.
they work with me. Where at Vista, it's like they don't say anything. You're just like, go in there and try to
Go
knock each other out.
do it.
Yeah. Which is fine. It's totally fine because you learn how to take a punch and you learn how to avoid punches when you're consistently getting punched, but it's a different way to learn. And I thrive a little bit more with somebody working with me instead of somebody just beating my ass until I figure
Absolutely.
it out. Yeah. But yeah, I took a fight in May, took it on a 4-day notice. I went in, it was a 25 bout card. I was about 24 of 25.
Holy cow.
Yeah, we hammered it out for 3 rounds, and I won by split decision. And I wasn't even in great shape. I told them at first, I was like, hey, I haven't really trained for a fight. Like, maybe give me 6 months before I take another fight. But since they found it, I was like, I can make 6 minutes. And I did. So it was a great experience. And then after that, I continue to train there. I've had a serious bout of tendonitis in my arm.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the last month, I've been rehabbing this arm. I was supposed to have a fight in the beginning of October.
Oh, okay.
And the guy they found was 230 pounds, and he had like 30 or 40 amateur fights. And I was like, I don't know. I weigh 190.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting a guy who weighs 230. Sorry.
Yeah, people don't realize how much the weight actually makes a difference.
Oh, huge difference.
I got
dude.
smoked my last fight. It was for the Bronco belt when I was fighting for Boise State's club team, which was
Yeah.
another Golden Gloves club. It was the Albero Boxing Club. But anyways, I got smoked. The guy was 28 years old. I was 18 years old at the time. And he outweighed me by 25 pounds, and he cut to make it within the weight range. Because in the amateurs, it doesn't have to be exact.
Right.
But it can be within.
I think it's like a 5 or 6 pound buffer.
Well,
or
at the
something
time,
like
it was
that.
actually, I think it was 15 pounds is the buffer.
Whoa.
So, but we were 13 pounds away when we weighed in, which is
Yeah.
fine. We got within, but like, he naturally wasn't 13 pounds.
Yeah.
He was like 25, 26 pounds heavier than me. And dude, I can tell you right now, like, when they're heavier, you can tell it's
difference.
a major difference. People don't realize that. The right hand is a little bit heavier when they're hitting you when they're 25 pounds above you.
Totally.
Oh.
Totally. Yeah. And I always think about that when I'm sparring with guys who weigh like 170 pounds or 165 pounds. Because I'm like, what purpose is there for me to just like tag these guys
Tee
up?
off on them.
Yeah, dude, and throw haymakers. Nothing. It doesn't prove anything. You know?
Exactly.
And so that's the mentality that SBG Idaho has, is why try to knock somebody out? It doesn't help anybody.
That's so cool. So they're helping everybody get better and focus on their weaknesses, essentially, right?
Yeah, and it shows, man. They produce some ridiculously great fighters. Like some of the guys who come out of that club, like Front Street Fights obviously pulls a lot of these fighters out of SBG Idaho because they're disciplined and they're very professional in the way that they handle themselves both inside and outside the ring.
Right.
At least to my knowledge and my experience with a lot of the guys that I come in contact with. So it's been a very good overall. I'm over here putting a plug in for SBG
That's
Idaho.
That's perfectly fine.
But I mean it's all true, and I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. But yeah, and then I was supposed to have a fight actually this coming weekend.
Okay.
But they haven't found me a fight, and because of my arm, I said, sign me up if you guys find a guy, and I'll fight on like a day's notice because I'm in shape to fight, but I can't train with my arm. I can fight on this arm, but I can't train on it.
Right.
You know, so
Eesh.
yeah, it's kind of a bummer. It is bad. I've never had tendonitis. I've had some serious injuries. Like I've had probably I don't know. I've had 13 surgeries, and I've had multiple surgeries on like bones issues, and I've never had anything as painful as tendonitis.
Dang, dude.
I couldn't raise my arm for like 3 weeks, man. Like it's crazy. I don't know if you've ever had tendonitis.
I haven't had it, like especially not in my arm. I don't even. That sucks.
Terrible. I didn't even know what it was at first. I was like, oh, I'll just keep grinding it out, and I kept training on it, thinking it was just like a knot or something, and it just compounded, got worse.
Dang, dude.
But, yeah. So,
Man.
So yeah, that's my boxing. And I think before you would ask me why I liked boxing with like MMA fighters or something like that. What was the question again?
Well, I was just wondering about your boxing experience, because I wanted to get into your training, and you have been training with your MMA guys over there, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of getting to know people, and one of whom happens to be a sponsored athlete for your nutrition line, correct?
Yeah.
And let's talk about that for a second. I want you to talk. We got 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And I want you to basically talk about what you got going on. So you've been boxing, all these things in sports. You've learned so much. You are meeting all these people, networking with all these. Like you said, you went and fought and you networked because that's where your line's like geared towards.
Yeah.
Let's talk about like your sports nutrition line, your sponsored athlete. What is this going on?
Yeah, we've actually got 3 sponsored athletes.
Okay.
3 amazing sponsored athletes. I'm very impressed with who've been able to get on our team so far. But it doesn't surprise me because I do believe in our product, and I believe that like our business model is one that people can get behind.
Right.
So we have Matt Jones, the Stripling Warrior. He's 6'2". He fights out of Team Elevation. He's also my co-host on the ProEdge Podcast. Nice. Yeah. So be looking out for some of the stuff that he hosts. He's pulling on some really good talent. And we'll talk about that in a second. But Matt Jones fighting for the featherweight title, 6'2". He had a stunning spinning back elbow. Went
dude,
viral, man.
Dude, everywhere.
He is a beast, dude. He is like he's unreal. The guy, he trains at like a level I've never seen before, man. I mean, if you look at his body, he is like a specimen. Like it's unreal. It just shows in his performance and just the way
you can tell he puts work in.
Yeah, and just when I talk to him, I've known him for a long time, and when I talk to him, I can tell that like his soul is literally in that kid. Like he has put everything that he has into like training for that. Like that's, and you can tell that. So I see this guy going far for sure, which is why I want him around me.
Right. No, for sure. I got you.
Yeah, totally. He's going to make me a better person. And then we also have Kyle Frost making his pro debut. This guy is called the Beast, and he is the Beast. He's 4-0 as an amateur, 3 knockouts in the first round, and I think one guy made it to the second. I'm not really sure. I think his last fight, somebody made it to the second. Submission. So he's making his pro debut. That'll be cool. And then we have a third fighter. Her name's Jessy Jess. She fights out of Invicta.
Okay.
She's a 3-time WMMA Australian national champion for women's MMA.
Okay.
So she has a fight scheduled here in Brazil for Invicta, which is a women's. It's where like Kat Zingano and like a lot of the women's fighters for UFC come up. It's like a farm system, like a farm league for them, I guess. And then that's it for our fighters. And then
some good fighters.
Yeah, they kill it, man. We've been fortunate enough to have them on board, like, and they're just cool people in general. And then we've got our podcast, which is a separate brand under the same name, but it's a separate business, and it's a general format podcast. I would consider myself probably the main host, just because the studio's at my house, and I probably sit in on everything.
You have a dope setup. I love it, dude. We were talking about that earlier, man.
Yeah.
You have a dope setup, dude.
You.
You've done a lot of good work getting that thing ready.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I'll have to have you in. I will have you in. Yeah, I'll have you in whenever you're available, and we'll bring other people on, or just be me and you. We'll sit down and chit chat about you next time.
Dude, whatever works, man. I'm happy. So what do you guys talk about on this podcast? He says general format. So what do you guys talk about?
We got so much stuff. So we've got like a hypnotherapist coming on and talk about hypnotherapy.
Okay.
Yeah, we got like an entomologist who wants to come on and talk about bugs in Idaho. He's a professor up at University of Idaho. One of my good friends growing up. I've talked to the Sector 17 graffiti crew. They're the guys who paint up the Table Rock buildings with all the graffiti, and they did the skate park downtown, and a lot of like the electrical boxes around town. We've got the guy who created Supleys who wants to come in, which is like a training regimen for combative athletes. So many. We've got between scientists, professional athletes. We're trying to get a couple guys on if we can network through to the UFC, just because Matt works out and trains at Team Elevation in Denver. So yeah, we've got a woman police officer from Boise Police coming in.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to get like unique people who have positions, either that they're like specialists in their field,
right?
Or people who are in a position that will make a very interesting conversation, like a woman PD. Like, what does a woman police officer have to do? Like, what does she have to deal with in Boise, Idaho? Stuff like that. Just have people come on and talk about what they do. Yeah. So
that's so cool.
More guests. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any more, but we've probably got like 10 lined up. Oh, hip hop producer coming on. I want to get John Wayne on there.
Nice.
Shout out to John Wayne. Yeah, he's got some amazing music. He's produced a lot of music. More people. Just keep an eye out.
Where can we find this podcast when it starts going?
Yeah, right now we're working on our streaming setup, so we're going to have it available to stream both video and audio.
Okay.
When our ProEdge Nutrition website launches, we'll also have a dedicated page just to the podcast to redirect to our actual podcast page, our YouTube stuff. And then we also have an Instagram and a Facebook. underneath ProEdge Nutrition, and then ProEdge Podcast also.
Okay.
And then on the Instagram, it's all under ProEdge Nutrition right now. We haven't set up our Instagram for the podcast yet.
Okay.
But it will be set up soon.
So it'll be separate from the ProEdge Nutrition.
Yeah, they're completely different entities, yeah.
Gotcha. In regards to, before we get to the Guru's Gauntlet section, I want to talk about your ProEdge Nutrition. Like, do you have any information on what this is? Because we've referenced ProEdge Nutrition.
Yeah.
We've referenced your supplement company. What is it? Like, what do we got? Yeah,
so unique products. And I've got an endurance formula. Right now, I've got 2 products that are available, and then I have 3 down the pipeline. So the 2 that are available right now is I have a stimulant-free volumizer, and it's 10 grams of just pure volume. So you're getting, and everything in my product, there's 0 filler, and you're getting whatever clinical research dosage. There's like any research on that particular ingredient, I have that dose. So I try to back up my information with like clinical research. So I have a volumizer that's got like your whole array of your citrulline. You've got your AAKG, you've got your citrulline, and you've also got your agmatine sulfate.
Yes.
So you're getting your volumizer, you're getting, your precursor and everything like that. So I've got a full serving of glutamine to help uptake your aminos in your small intestine. And then I've got a full serving of creatinola phosphate, which is kind of like an intracellular buffer. So it's going to lower your pH levels in your lactic acid so that you're able to output a little bit more muscular endurance, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So when your body starts to slow down, like when you're hitting like that last rep and you're getting tired, this is your body saying, yeah, you're going to hurt yourself. And it's outputting a lot of lactic acid, try to like stop you from injuring yourself.
Right.
And so because I took out the stimulant in my volumizer, I needed something to kind of replace that. And so if I took that out, somebody who's training, like a strength training, is going to need a little more muscular endurance. So there's that. And that's what I've got. Yeah, that's it. That's basic, man. Super basic. Yeah. And then I have an endurance blend. This has been popping off in, especially with like a lot of the athletes who are training for their upcoming fights. It's we call it fuel. It's 20 grams of carbs. And then you're also getting your beta alanine. You're getting a dicreatine malate, which everything, if you research all these ingredients, they all work very well together. So like a dicreatine malate with like a carb is going to increase your endurance levels. With that carb, your body's ability to like break it down, metabolize it, and utilize it as energy. So and the carbs are going to give you, a lot of these fighters, a lot of people who train like cyclists and swimmers, they're not training on a full stomach. So they need a little bit of something other than a bunch of like fumes, essentially, which caffeine is. And then I've got phenylethylamine. So this is the endurance blend. So I've got a full serving of phenylethylamine. So you're getting 500 milligrams of that. 100 milligrams of caffeine, which is an activator for phenylethylamine. And it's also an activator for B12. We're given 333% of B12. It's water soluble, so you can't really absorb more than that. And then we've got taurine, which is a vasodilator and also natural energy. So so what you're getting in our endurance blend is an adrenaline rush.
Nice.
Which is awesome. I've had so many different athletes try it, and every time they get back to me, they're like, dude, this is like probably one of the best workouts I ever had. I've got like people training 1 and 2 hours. They don't crash. They don't have any issues with stomach problems. They don't have headaches. Like nobody's reported any side effects, nothing. So I'm very confident that my product will take off through that outlet.
Nice.
I've got a distributor who owns a few gyms in Vegas who's really interested in it. I'm working with a couple universities on their football programs.
Nice.
I've been kind of keeping it quiet just because it's, they're trying to budget in what they can afford, everything between like in pre, intra, post workout. And then down the pipeline, I've also got a hydration blend. So it's like a coconut powder blend with some other things in there. And then I've also got a nighttime formula. And then I've got like a post workout formula. So
dude, I'm liking it. So basically all your products, efficacious doses. What am I saying? One of those things.
Doses. Yeah, doses. You're right. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know what that first word means, but it sounds cool.
It's like clinical dosages. Whatever.
Efficacious.
Efficacious. So it looks like all your products are pretty clean. Everything's good. I'm looking forward to hearing your podcast when it starts going and everybody gets it. So if you guys are listening, make sure to check that out. The ProEdge So is it ProEdge Nutrition Podcast, ProEdge Podcast?
Yeah, ProEdge Podcast and then ProEdge Nutrition.
Okay, so ProEdge is like the...
ProEdge, yeah. Okay. We're working on a trademark on ProEdge.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Awesome, man. So to finish up, Tim, we're going to go ahead and do the Guru's Gauntlet.
Yeah.
I got a couple questions for you. You don't have time to even think about the answer. You just got to spit them out. It's just going to be some really quick questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. MMA or boxing, which one do you prefer?
Boxing.
Okay. I had my other question right here. That was
on the tip of my tongue. That's not even a question.
Boom.
I love MMA, but my love is for boxing.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Skateboarder. Who's the best skateboarder that you've ever seen? Favorite skateboarder?
Eric. Eric Costin. That's the one I was. Yeah, I love Eric Costin. He flows.
Was he on Tony Hawk? Pro skater.
Yeah, he rode for S for a long time back in the day. Yeah,
I remember. Okay, and then who's your favorite podcast? Who's your favorite podcaster that you listen to?
Oh, that's a tough one. Rogan. And I only say that just because he's probably the most recent one I've listened to. But I've really been getting into Parcast podcast.
Okay.
And they do cults and serial killers, and they also and then there's one I'm listening to called Locked Up Abroad that people talk about their stories about getting kidnapped by drug dealers, and it's cool. Yeah.
What a great way to end the show today on a dark note. I love it. So Parcast, is that what you said?
Yeah, Parcast podcast. They do a bunch of stuff like cults and serial. They do a bunch of documentary style.
Dude,
yeah,
right. Okay.
They're really interesting.
I'll have to listen to them.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you tuning in and coming in for the podcast today, Tim. This has been fun talking with you here in this little studio.
It's great.
It's a good time. Hopefully, we'll connect in the future as well.
Oh, we will.
We'll do some more shows and whatnot. Yeah. But yeah, for you guys out there, make sure to follow the show. Go to iTunes. Make sure you give me a review. Subscribe to the podcast, and hopefully, you guys can see Tim's podcast coming out here shortly. This is the Game Time Guru. We'll talk to you next week.